Welcome to the Cheap Seats YouTube channel. My name is Mark, and I'll be your host. This is actually my first long video on this channel. Before this, we've been doing shorts through here and TikTok and Instagram, but now we're looking to expand into longer form videos. I wanted to offer a little bit more detail and nuance into what I do, what I like to do. And today we're going to fire off actually by starting to preview NFL divisions. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a focus on one breakout player per team, per division. We're going to break it down into 8 separate videos to give you guys the opportunity to kind of see exactly what's going on and give you an idea of maybe some people that have gone under the radar that deserve a little bit more love, a little bit more respect than they're getting currently. Obviously, with the NFL season starting tomorrow night, I figured the best way to begin this is by starting off with the NFC East. Tomorrow night, the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning, defending champions of the world, facing against the Dallas Cowboys. And obviously the Dallas Cowboys have been all over the news cycle recently with the trade of Micah Parsons. And obviously, like, you're never going to replace Micah Parsons, and people can have their feelings about that trade one way or another. What I will say is that acquiring Kenny Clark is a big deal, right? I know he didn't have the best year last year, but Kenny Clark's a hell of a ball player. And he will offer them some interior strength that I think will add to what they have. And the reality is the reason why I'm comfortable with the idea of them trading trading Micah Parsons is because in the draft they added Donovan Ezeraku, who is my focus player with the Dallas Cowboys, who is somebody that I believe that going forward will ingrain himself as a permanent starter with this team. I know he's probably going to start off situationally as a rusher for these guys because they do have depth at the edge positions. But by the season's end, I believe Donovan Ezeraku will be a guy that this team leans on heavily and will produce at a high level. I had Donovan ranked in the top 20 of this draft class. I love his style of edge rusher. I know the skills are not the most dynamic skill guy. I know he's not the quickest guy in the world. I know that he is a little bit small for some people's liking. But when I watched Donovan Ezeraku, when I broke down the tape of Donovan Ezeraku, what I saw was a guy who, yeah, he's 6'2" and he's 248 pounds or whatever he's listed at. But he's got long arms, he's got good speed, and he's got shockingly powerful hands for a guy that plays with the way he does. But the thing that I love about Donovan Ezeraku more than anything is he's just slippery. He's got great hip bend, and I think his hips are what make him really special. He has the ability to change direction fluidly, and he's just really smooth with his hips. He has the ability to start on an outside rush, counter with several moves, get to the interior if he needs to. He's just smart and he understands counters kind of in a way that Latu did last year. It's just a technician. And I think that sometimes he gets underrated in terms of how powerful he is and how dynamic he can be athletically and how strong his hands are, because I think there is a real ability to play the power game there too, even as an undersized rusher. But the thing that makes him so special is the fact he's got every move in the bag. He has counters upon counters upon counters, and the ability to sink below pad level, get to that hip bend, get to his primary move his feet, slide his hips, get small and get around big blockers. He's just a tough guy to deal with. And then you add the motor on top of it and the ability for him to just keep up a pace of pressure throughout a day. Some people have expressed a concern that maybe he's going to be a liability in the run game because of his size. I just don't see it that way. He's such a high IQ player, and he's so tenacious. And I just think that Donovan Ezeraku is somebody that went undervalued in the draft cycle, and that going forward, he's going to be able to carve out a role. Right now, as a situational rusher, going forward throughout the year, I think he's going to end up being a 3-down guy for them. And I'm excited to see what he can do, even in coverage in small area. I just think he's a special player, and I think that Donovan Ezeraku is going to carve his way out to being a high-level edge rusher in this sport and in this game over the next decade. So for the Dallas Cowboys, the breakout player for me is Donovan Ezeraku, and I'm so excited to see what he ends up being able to do in this system that has provided so much opportunity for edge rushers. And I'm not saying that he's Micah Parsons, because you know what, really, probably nobody is, the way that Micah gets it done. But Donovan Ezeraku can be productive and can be a game changer in his way. We just need to not do he's not Micah Parsons comparable, because that's not a fair thing to do for a rookie. But Donovan Ezraku is going to come out this year, and he is going to consistently pressure the quarterback. And over the course of the year, I think he's going to get home with a higher frequency, just because he is such a high-level technician. Going next to the Philadelphia Eagles, where, like, obviously being a defending champion and having the roster depth that they have, sometimes it's tricky for players to break through. And obviously we saw last year a couple guys do it, Zach Baum and other guys. They're very good at scheming players to their strengths and allowing a player who might have certain limitations to kind of shine in the way that they want to, in the way that they're capable of. For me, the Philadelphia Eagles this year, the one player that when I look at their roster and I go, this kid has the opportunity to shine out. And there was other guys like Will Shipley and stuff that I think are going to have good years and I think can do things in certain roles. But for me, Moro Ojomo on the defensive line, his ability to go outside or inside on the line, his ability to, defend the run, and his ability to get, pressure and collapse pockets. I just think it's special. And I think that, again, not the biggest defensive end in the world, not the biggest D tackle, depending on how they want to use him, because I think he's going to go inside and outside occasionally. But what makes him so special is these things. He has just incredibly powerful hands, and he's got a great cross-arm punch that he uses almost in an edge rushing situation. He has some edge counters. His thing is he's not overly quick. He's not a massive dude. He's a big guy, don't get me wrong. And sometimes he lets his pad level get a little bit higher than he probably should. His overall burst off the snap is not elite. But we've seen progressions in his ability to get off and apply instant pressure and really take on one-on-ones. And let's be real, when you're playing next to the guys he's going to play next to, Jalen Carter, who I think has as good of odds as anybody in football to win a Defensive Player of the Year this year, he is going to be taking on one-on-ones with frequency. Once in a while, maybe he'll get a chip or a hedge. But for the most part, he's going to be taking on one-on-ones. And I think that if you put him into a situation with his blend of like decent speed, but like exceptional hand strength and huge core and upper body strength and his ability to burst and use his arm length, I just think that he has the ability to say he starts high. Often he needs to figure out the pad level stuff. He's not the most flexible guy through the hips. And I think when it comes to getting to the quarterback and getting home, you're not going to see massive sack totals from him. I think he's going to be able to apply pressure on the backside with frequency. Obviously, Jalen Carter collapsing pockets and everything else that he's going to do. But what Moro Ojomo is going to do is consistently bend his man, put pressure back into the pocket, collapse his side, hold, contain, defend the run at a high level. And once in a while, he's going to be able to get home just because that motor is so great and that hand strength is so great. And he plays with a level of tenacity and a level of intensity that I think makes him a really potentially special player as a complimentary guy. I think going forward this season, Moro Ojomo is one of those guys for the Philadelphia Eagles that's really going to stand out. And I think more people are going to have to start to recognize that name and understand the function that he plays for this team, because he's one of those guys that just makes life easy for all the players around him. Switching over to the New York Giants. New York Giants were an interesting one because I think there were several guys that we could have focused on. I think there were several guys that really could have done a pretty good job as a breakout guy. Obviously, a lot of people are focusing on Tyron Tracy and the running game, especially with what they've added. And obviously, Jackson Dart would be somebody that a lot of people are going to focus on, or Malik Neighbors, or whoever else. I wanted to stick with the defensive side of the ball because I think there's an opportunity for a defensive tackle, defensive end, depending on how they want to scheme him out, to step up and kind of take a role with that myriad of rushers that they have on that team. They need somebody that can just really hold up strong as a run stopper and win at point of attack. And for me, Darius Alexander is that guy. Again, not an enormous guy. He's 6'4", he's 305 pounds. So he's a big dude. Don't get me wrong. Long arms, good functional speed, right? Like good functional size and just a wildly powerful guy for his size. He has the ability to use finesse moves as a pass rusher too, which I always find so fascinating for a big, strong, physical power guy like him. But he's got one of the nastier swim moves of a player that I've evaluated in a few years. I really, really like what Darius Alexander does in terms of how shifty he can be for a 300-pound guy. You know, when he gets into the run game, he keeps his hands tight. He has the ability to explode through point of attack and really dominate at line of scrimmage and one-on-one matchups. And for me, that ability to be able to free up that space and you know, in the run game, there are times where you might need to take him on with two blockers. You know, that's how impactful he could be in terms of collapsing the pocket and allowing those edge rushers, you know, obviously adding guys like Abdul and whatnot, you know, you have the ability to really see what he can do in those situations. I think he's somebody that's going to consistently make the life of offensive linemen very, very hard. And the New York Giants, you know, front group in general between their linemen and their edge players, I think is going to provide so much pressure to opposing quarterbacks. It's going to alleviate some of the concerns I have about their defensive secondary. You know, and a guy like Darius Alexander, who's going to start the year probably rotationally rather than a starting player, but I think he's somebody that ingrains himself into a heavy rotation going forward as the season goes. And I think by the time that you get into the big time weeks, if this team can stay competitive, I think Darius Alexander is somebody that ends up taking a spot and running with it because, like I said, that dominant run defender that he can be, that has the ability to really, really hit hard on one-on-one matchups, make tackles, and guards just fight for their life to keep their hands on him because he is so smooth for a big, powerful guy. It's actually really, really impressive. So I love Darius Alexander. I think that Darius Alexander is going to be absolutely phenomenal for the New York Giants this year. And, you know, like go into Giants games with an open mind because obviously those edge rushers are, you know, their group of edge rushers, which is so deep and so impressive, is going to get all the love. But guys like Darius Alexander are the reason why those edge guys can get and do the things they're going to be able to do because he's the one taking on just dynamically challenging matchups and collapsing the pocket for them, right? Instant pressure. For the Washington Commanders, this was another team where it was hard because there's several guys that I could have went with. For me, you look at their running back room and you look at Austin Eckler, you know, wrong side of 30. Obviously, limitations is back in terms of the physical size and his running style and his ability to stay healthy or not. Watching their preseason, the player that stood out continually for me for the Washington Commanders was Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. And I think that right now, I think they have him number 3 on their depth chart. And to me, it kind of reminds me of Sean Tucker with the Bucs, where he comes in largely as an unknown. He was a 7th-round draft pick. It's not like his measurables or his you know, sprint speed or anything like that. Like his combine measurements are off the charts. What he is another dude like, you know, Pacheco or, you know, one of those dudes that just runs hard. He runs mean. He runs angry. His ability to plant his foot, change the direction, and make just aggressive, decisive lateral cuts is really, really impressive. I also think that despite the fact in college he never really got the opportunity to show much in the passing game, I've been super impressed with what he's been able to do from the passing elements, not just catching the ball, but in terms of some run blocking or some pass blocking as well. You know, he's a patient guy. He lets the defense kind of develop in front of him. He's been willing to take on those blocks. Obviously, he's going to have to increase what he does in that role, but his ability to just kind of play the patient game, understand small movements make big differences, plant that foot, aggressively cut. Like I said, the hands I think are good. I think he has the ability to make guys miss. And then when he decides to hit a hole and he decides to attack, man, he's a guy that's just going to blow through arm tackles. He's somebody that's just really difficult to bring down, and you're going to have to wrap him up, and you're going to have to hit him square, and you're going to have to gang tackle this kid because I think that he is one of those dudes that when he sees an opportunity to explode, I don't think he's going to be a big hitter. He's not going to be a guy popping off 70-yard runs, but what he is a consistent guy that is going to physically take toll on that second and third level of the defense. He's not somebody that you love tackling as a defensive player. It's guys like this that really just make your job miserable. He's a guy that looks to lay hits on defensive players, and I absolutely love it. Great vision, gets downhill, runs mean, runs angry, can plant that foot and get into space. And now you're seeing the development as a pass catcher and a pass blocker, which is awesome. He stays a little bit vertical, but I think the things that are up with him, I think the things that are just downsides for Krosky Merritt, I think they're very coachable. And when a college player, football turns into your professional vocation, I just think that he is somebody that can clean up the little process issues in his game. Runs a little bit tall, sometimes gets a little bit stiff, sometimes ball placement when he's running it isn't the best. But I think these are all coachable elements. And for a kid that was drafted in the 7th round, I think he's the guy this year that is going to be that running back from the back half of the draft that really pops. And by the end of the year, you go, man, how did this kid slide that far, right? So for me, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt is a guy to absolutely keep your eyes on, because I'm just not a big believer in Austin Eckler's ability to stay on the field at this point. And like I said, he's more of a situational running back at this point. And obviously the Washington Commanders see something with their depth, with the willingness to trade away Brian Robinson Jr. So if you want, this is the only one. Like I said, it was all defensive front 7 players before this. This is a guy that I think, like I said, late in seasons can win you a week in fantasy as well. So going forward, we had the Dallas Cowboys, Donovan Ezeraku, breakout player. Eagles, Moro Ajomo, breakout player. Giants, Darius Alexander, and then the one offensive player in the NFC East that I'm focusing on was Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, who I think is going to end up having just a phenomenal year as a rookie running back. Tomorrow, we're going to drop another video. The video will be largely probably based around the NFC South, and these are going to come out with quick frequency before Sunday. Hopefully, we can get every division broken down before Sunday. Come back also, because I'll be doing a lot of draft content. I'll be doing more NFL content, and then I'll also be doing NBA breakdowns and previews before the season starts there. So thank you so much for joining me. Again, please like, subscribe, comment if there's specific things that you want to see. And, let's enjoy this football season together. Have a great day.